Hello, I'm Annette Young and welcome to the 51%, a show about women reshaping our world. In this special edition, we're focusing on Syria, a nation emerging from decades of a brutal dictatorship. The country's interim leader, Ahmed al-Sharaa, having signed a constitutional declaration laying out rights for women and freedom of expression. This after his Islamist-led rebels toppled Bashar al-Assad's government last December. Yet sectarian violence still threatens to split the country apart, as we saw recently with those attacks directed at the Alawite community treated as associates of Assad. Shortly, I'll be talking to Mariam Jalabi, a co-founder of the Syrian women's political movement. But first, this report on how many Syrian women are still fearful of a future with less freedom.
They're dentists, teachers and architects. These young Syrian women, Fatma, Rima, Bayan, are out for a stroll through the streets of Aleppo. Also out shopping, women in niqabs, the full-face veil. A rare sight in Syria before the fall of Bashar al-Assad. It's something their fellow Muslims have had to get used to, the presence of women with a stricter interpretation of Islam. They've become more visible since the arrival of the Islamist interim government.
Yes, it's true. We see more women in niqabs now. Everyone has their own way of doing things. It's their right. Does it bother us? Yes, at first it bothered us a lot. Now it's okay.
Honestly, what worries us is the possibility that it could become mandatory. I personally chose not to wear a veil, and no one will force me to. As long as our freedom is not restricted, for now everything is fine. But we want to remain free to make our own choices.
Since gaining power, the former jihadists have promised moderation and tolerance. But Syrian women, concerned about their freedom, are wary of certain signs. In Homs, posters featuring women in full veils have appeared all over the city, like at the entrance of a university. Although no national law has been passed regarding the veil, some students, like aspiring journalist Sally, are worried.
This is the kind of pressure we experience regularly. Someone approaches you and says, "You're a Muslim, you should wear the veil." It's a religious obligation. That scares me.
Some other messages have appeared on the side of public buses, encouraging women to sit in the back and not mix with men. Again, there is no legal obligation, but most Syrian women comply. They believe the new authorities are trying to pressure them. We asked a security official and former jihadist about this. He insisted that these actions come from independent religious figures and brushed off concerns.
You focus on the separation of men and women, but these are minor details that are not part of our real problems. Our president is sincere when he says there is room for individual freedoms. Personally, I agree with these posters, but women are free to make their own choices.
Is this a form of freedom under surveillance? This is what this judge fears. She spoke to us anonymously for her own safety. She asserts that, in her courtroom, women have gradually been losing their rights since the arrival of the Islamist government.
The new court officials have forbidden us from speaking with our male colleagues or being in the same room with them. Now there are separate rooms. They've reorganized the system. The women who held senior positions have not been dismissed, but they have been demoted. I believe that, for now, the new leaders are mindful of international pressure. But deep down, they're radicals who do not want women to work.
For now, these examples remain isolated. But many Syrian women fear they could become the norm once the political transition is complete.
And joining me now from New York is Mariam Jalabi, a co-founder of the Syrian women's political movement. Mariam, thank you so much for your time. The report there highlighting concerns by a number of Syrian women that the rise in religious observance by conservative Muslims endanger their newfound freedoms. Are they right to be worried?
Well, I believe that as women in the world, that we need to all be worried about where human rights are going, where women's rights are going. I think we're always in constant watchfulness that certain rules and laws don't take force in Syria. But I believe that is the job of us, Syrian women, feminists from all diverse backgrounds who have come together and made a point out of saying we are equal partners and equal citizens in this country, and we're going to keep watch.
The other concern, of course, is sectarian violence, which clearly is an ongoing threat to this very fragile society traumatised by years of war and conflict. How is this impacting women and girls in particular?
So now what has happened in the coastal area in Latakia and Tartus is remnants of this violent regime that has come forward and are trying to create problems in Syria. We need to focus on what really will bring reconciliation and hope for people, and I believe that women can do this job. We need to neutralize and take away weapons. We need to make sure that armed groups don't have the measures that they have right now, the fiefdoms that they have now, the access to the weapons and to the power right now. And this is a Syrian issue that we need to deal with internally and work in dialogue with. And this is, of course, impacted. I'd like to talk maybe further about how this is impacted by the economic situation in Syria, exasperating these kind of clashes, these kind of issues that is putting people in places where they need to fight and fend for themselves. And this is creating a big issue for us, and we don't want it to turn into a civil war. So we are doing our part of the job, and we have a huge ask from the international community also to do their part of the job by lifting sanctions and supporting Syria regain its economic power so that we do not count on, militarized solution to solve our problems.
Mariam, tell me a bit more about the Syrian women's political movement and how reflective is it of Syrian population, which of course itself is so incredibly diverse, anything from Kurdish women, religious Sunni women, and so on.
The Syrian women political movement was a response to a need that Syrian women wanted to do for Syria, is that a lot of the political spaces and the political bodies did not have enough women that are working with them. So the idea was, we have so many women who are working at the front lines, and us coming together as a whole will be so much more impactful than us coming individually. The sum of our parts, our whole is so much stronger. And we want to help our country, our men, hold their hands to bring them together to the issues that they are not paying attention to. And our strength, our uniqueness as a group comes from the diversity that we have. We have diverse groups like Kurdish groups, Alawite, Sunnis, Druze, everybody. And it is a very democratic structure where we have also women like from Muslim perspective, Muslim feminists, Islamists, we have atheists, all kinds of sorts of ideologies, but we all have come together because we want a country that's built on equal citizenships and human rights and adherence to international law.
Recently, you said in an interview that it's a fact about the world that it's difficult for somebody with privileges to give up those privileges. So we do not ask, we act. In regards to what you're doing with your movement, how do you do it?
We sit in spaces where we're not expected to be sitting. We request meetings where we're not expected to be requesting meetings. And this was done when the regime fell on December 8th. In a month from then, on the anniversary of the first month, on January 8th, we had a big conference in Damascus in al-Sharaa hotel, to which we invited 350 people to come. Women from all over Syria came to this conference. Our member, Thuraya al-Hadi from the Syrian women political movement, came with her 2-week-old baby in a 2-day journey to be part of this conference. It shows you the perseverance, the grit that Syrian women have in order to create those spaces for us. We are not going to be given this space. We need to create the space and sit in it ourselves. And if necessary, go and take it.
Therefore, how confident are you about this new constitutional declaration?
The Constitutional Declaration has a lot of good parts in it and some other alarming parts in it. But we have had a constitution that was not 100% terrible, even before the fall of the regime. But the crucial point comes in when you need to practice this. You've put this document forward and it talks about women's rights and human rights and equality. So we want to see that justice and equality served on the ground in practice in order for us to actually assess it on full scale in a meaningful way, because it's long and we need to see how this is actually being practiced on the ground.
Mariam, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And finally, we're going to leave you with an uplifting story about a choir of Syrian women who can finally sing freely. Under the Assad regime, their music choices were often censored. But for now, they can sing about freedom and revolution, as Charlie James reports.
An emotional entrance. The all-female Gardenia Choir is performing for the first time at the Damascus Opera House. They sing about the 2011 revolution, which was brutally suppressed by Bashar al-Assad's regime. A few months ago, this performance would have been unthinkable.
This is the first time we're singing in a government space, in a public space like the Opera House, which is the most important theatre in the country. The songs we love, the songs that express our views and our feelings, the songs that we used to listen to in secret, we can sing them anywhere now.
This musical liberation does come with apprehension. These women didn't know what to expect when a coalition of Islamist groups seized power in December. Choir member Haneen is still waiting to be fully reassured.
There were and still are concerns because we're not very active as musicians yet, especially as women musicians.
After the fall of the regime, it's no secret that there was concern over the new authorities' views on art and music, whether they'd be considered forbidden by Islam, and if they'd be allowed or not.
At the end of January, artists did receive a reassuring message. Members of the new government came to the first concert held at the Damascus Opera House since the regime change, and they applauded the National Symphony Orchestra, made up of male and female musicians.
And that's it for this edition. So until our next show, bye for now.